How are we all doing this afternoon? We've made it through the entire week, and we are at a good point to kind of slow down a little bit and have a conversation. And that's what I want to do with you all today, is just kind of have a conversation about some of the things that have been extremely passionate to me, infrastructure, device connectivity, IoT connectivity, how we've been managing that. And hopefully I can provide some tips and techniques that you can take away and you can immediately start implementing things back at home or fill in the gaps or just have some extra thoughts to think about as you're traveling back on your flight home. So let's dive into this. Of course, we have the disclaimer. Y'all seen that how many times already? Network and infrastructure security. So that is my background for a number of years, working through different network and infrastructure things, inventory management. All of those are the things that I have passion about, IoT implementations, zero trust strategies. So let's dive into some of the things that we're going to try to educate ourselves through and just have some understandings about. Is that good for everybody? Yes? All right, good. I got a good crowd today, so I appreciate that. So we're going to go through and learn how we can talk about discovering things in our different environments and how we can manage through and learn about identifying devices that are connected to our networks and educate ourselves on processes and procedures that allow us to get there. And then at the end of that, we will, of course, be able to protect our environment, because that's what we're all here for, right? To protect our environments, to protect our assets, and come up with better techniques to prevent risk in our environment. And so let's dive into some of these topics. As we look at how we are connecting devices, as we look at things that are of interest, we understand that identifying is one of our biggest challenges, right? We have so many connected devices. We have so many things out there that are unknown. We just need to have better understanding on how we're going to be able to do that. And so let's have a conversation about what we need to do that. What needs to be prioritized? So we have all these things. I've now discovered all of these things. Which one is most important? Which process do I need to put first? And we always do that because we ask ourselves, well, do I need additional resources? Do I need this, that, or other? What does that priority look like? So let's talk about some of those things. Inventory collection. Where are we keeping our inventory? Where are we keeping our docs? Is it consolidated? Do we have some here? Do we have some there? I mean, I know in the number of companies I work for, and you know, it's this team has a good inventory, this team has a good inventory, this team has a good inventory. None of them are talking to each other. Why is that? We're all working for the same goal. Why can't we do something a little bit better on that? Let's figure out how we can do that. And then the reporting is different. You know, everybody needs to know something different from the same data. The operations center, the management, the end user, the developer, everybody has a different need of the same data. Profiling different devices. You can you scan a device, you InMap, you do, whatever tools that you use, you bring back information about that. And everybody needs something different about that same data. So let's talk about what's most important for that. And then when we look at inventory management, are we keeping it protected? Are we putting it in the right environments? And are we applying the right identities to how we're keeping that data together? So let's dive into some of these things. Manage devices. How do we solve for this? I mean, we all have, you know, large and small and mid-sized environments, thousands of devices, hundreds of thousands of devices. I mean, I work for Microsoft. We got millions of devices. So how do you manage all of that? How do you keep track? You know, when they come back and say, well, how many devices, you know, were compromised, or how many devices are compliant, or how many, and you say, well, 10 million are not compliant. What is it? You say, okay, where do you even start with that? Are they all connected to the environment? How did they connect? Was it through access point? Was it through some wired connection that you had? You know, how did they get there? Where did you get that information from? What scanner gave you that information about those connected devices? How well are you managing your unknown systems? We scan devices, we have labs, we have IoT that connects, we have sensors here, we have sensors there. Are we managing those systems well? Do we have processes in place that allow us to automatically account for what we're doing with these connected devices? Or we say, well, okay, I have this space is done, this space is done well, but that's 10 devices, and I have 100,000 more to deal with. I need to be all-encompassing. I need to create systems that cross not just my team, but all the other teams that are in my ecosystem. And we're all taking logs. I mean, everybody has a SIM, right? I mean, let me see your hands. Who doesn't have a SIM? If you don't have a SIM in your environment, raise your hand. If you are managing your SIM very well, raise your hand. Exactly. Nobody raised their hand because they get so overwhelmed. It's like, I can't, you know, it's false negative, false positives. How many falses do we talk about every single time? And then the storage gets, you know, I'm increasing my storage because I have more connected devices, but I don't have identity for all those devices. I don't have a threat risk rating for the devices I have connected in my environment. It's just overwhelming. And so you start making choices, right? You start making decisions on what you're going to look at, what you feel is most important, and that goes back to that prioritization. What's most important? And so when we look at this, and we look at our different scenarios, and we say, I have a large inventory. I have a ton of IoT. Does anybody have any IoT in their environment? Nobody? Just a few people? A few people raise their hand, like 90% of you. Everybody has IoT today. And guess what? It's going to grow. The more you get sensors that do this, and sensors that do that, and devices that do this, and automation that does that. And you know, I like walking into the hotel and the shades just come up. Don't y'all like that? Shades just automatically, that's all your IoT. It's all connected. Do you have accountability for all of that? Because if you don't know where it is, it's like bees to the honey. Your hackers are just looking for it and waiting for it and waiting for you to mess up and waiting for you to not manage passwords on it and waiting and waiting and waiting. And so when we look at our IoT systems, are we managing the physical aspects of it well? We're managing it because we installed it, but are we managing it well? Do we have good controls around who can access it, who can get to it, who can modify it? You know, when you're walking around the halls here and you see the access points that are sitting behind a trash can or something, it's a means to an end. But I would suffice it to say that most of our networks are not having access points so easily accessible to anyone passing by. Sensors, all of these different things. So we just need to be mindful of that. And then when we're looking at, quantum, I'm really keen on quantum. Quantum is coming. Quantum, you got to get ready for it. But when we think about quantum, how are we encrypting our communications going back and forth? Is our IoT or any of our connected devices able to manage quantum agile algorithms so that they can communicate back and forth? You have that sensor, it's not going to have too much on it. So what compensating controls do you have in place to be able to account for that? You need to think about that when you start wanting to automate and connect your devices to the infrastructure. Defense in depth, layering on security controls. And then what kind of visibility do you have into those devices? Everybody has some kind of endpoint protection on their laptops. Everybody has something on some server that they've installed in their environment. But what about all the thousands of devices that don't? All the unknowns that you don't have. all the environments, all the labs. Everybody monitors and manages their labs really, really well, right? We have accountability for everything that connects. We have patch management on all of those devices. We have access. We can scan into the spaces. I would say that that is all challenges that we have mitigation efforts for. And so let's talk about some of the things that we can do to get past some of that. And then potential compromises. How many people follow the MITRE framework or look at CVEs or listen to information or have some kind of threat intelligence feeds that come into their network? But just show of hands. That's good. That's good. Do you automatically apply some of the risks that are associated to those reports to your connected devices? I mean, when you come out and say, oh, such and such, I don't want to throw any vendor on the name, such and such vendor, had a compromise on their system that's running such and such a code, and you automatically put that into isolation. Who does that? I mean, it's available. We can do it. But how many people have a good mechanism to, one, go out there and reach and grab that information, two, apply it to your infrastructure in real time, and three, report on it? I mean, weak passwords. Every time we deploy an IoT device, the most compromised or most used password is either default or password or ABC123. And guess what? It never changes because you think it's, I don't know what we're thinking. We just never change it. But those are some of the things that help us understand that those compromises will spread if we don't take action on it, if we don't do some automation, if we don't create a better playing field for AI into that space. And so get rid of the weak passwords. Create a better base of AI that can see across that so that you can secure that ecosystem from design, from the ground up, from deployment. And so when we look at this and we want to understand some of the things that we prioritize, like I was saying, build security from the ground up. When you deploy it, you should already have your checklist, your playlist, your policies in place that says, this is how we're going to do this. And if you don't have it written down, because most of us, we're fast thinkers, we have it in our mind and we say, oh, I got it. I can do it. And then you're not in that role anymore. And then the next person is saying, well, let me think of what he was thinking about, and so I can deploy it. And then that person's not in that role anymore. I mean, how many employees do we have that run through and are great at what they do, and then they move on to a new role, and then you have to start over? Starting over is extremely expensive. But if you put it in a system that's automated, if you put it in a system that is generative AI, it transcends any one individual person, transcends any one individual team, and it allows you to apply your policies as necessary. And so when you're doing your discovery, prioritize what you're looking for. Know what you're looking for. Understand when you're correlating that data and you're consulting with the multiple teams, make sure that you put some prioritization around what they need as well as what you need, so that when you create the overall database of information, it's all encompassing and everybody's pulling stats from the same information. And if everybody's pulling stats from the same information, guess what? Your results are what? The same. Your stats are the same. Your prioritization becomes the same across multiple verticals. Your understanding of your risk is the same. One team should not have a different risk vector or risk score than another team. It should all be the same. You just need to pull out what's important to you out of that telemetry so that you can give the reports for your vertical. Your security governance. Are your policies up to date? When I go and do consulting work and I talk to different companies, their policies are 6 years old. Their policies are 4 years old. When is the last time you updated your policy? Well, in 2008, when we deployed the network, the document is the same. You're saying, well, we've updated it. I said, well, where's the update? Well, that guy left. How does that help you? It doesn't. I'm just telling you that right now. It does not. And then your custom configurations that you've done. Every network is not the same. And every network builds and modifies and grows based upon the need of your growth, the need of your acquisitions. It's all based upon need. Do you know what that need is? Have you written it down? And are you applying that? So when you're looking at your logs and you're looking at your scans and you're looking at your inventory that's incomplete because you haven't done any of this yet, or you've done it and you just need a little bit more maturity into it, it all needs to be the same. When you're applying AI to parse through the millions and millions of logs that you get on a regular basis, and I say millions just being conservative because we get like petabytes of information, right? You can't sift through that. You can't put enough good data into an Excel doc and make that meaningful to you. I mean, yes, we try. I mean, everybody uses some kind of Excel sheet in some fashion. But you need a mechanism that allows for you to get past the Excel doc, put it in a proper database, and filter against that database, and allow your AI systems to help make decisions for you, help you get past the everyday, day-to-day, and apply your policies as you have them written. So you can just modify the policies, and then it automatically updates your telemetry. So who benefits? Who are the benefactors from this? Well, your networking teams, because they want to know what they need to deploy. They need to know, do I need 9Ks? Do I need something else? Do I need ILO? What do I need on the back end? Your threat intelligence center, I mean, how many times has your SOC come back and said, okay, we found this device, it shows it to be compromised, but I don't have any information on it. I can't click on it and get the owner of that device. This device is spewing out information out to some nation state. We see it doing it, but we don't know who installed the device. We don't know when it was installed. I know that's unique to me, but I think that a lot of people run into that same scenario. And then, is your procurement team aligned? You're deploying, they're deploying, everybody's deploying. They're all benefactors of that. You have accountability. When your life cycle on these devices come up, because they do, and they need to be rotated, they're all benefactors of this. And then we understand our security operations team, of course. Is your zero trust strategy mature? You've done isolation. Everybody's done some level of isolation management. I mean, they should have anyway. Is it good? Is it mature? Is it complete? If you deploy some of these things and you have this understanding about your environment, you can deploy a good zero trust strategy across your environment and see the benefits of that. And then your assurance teams can say, hey, I know what this is, I know what it's doing, I know it needs to be patched. And then you can start sending out those nasty emails saying, hey, it's time to patch. Hey, it's time to upgrade this device. Hey, this device is end of life. Hey, this device is compromised. We're isolating off the network. And you understand what that really is. So let's go into these different areas about discovery, about consulting across our different verticals, assurance mechanism, and then how we're onboarding. And then just at the end, you'll be able to see some simple dashboards of what the collected information looks like. These are not new things. There's companies out there, first party, third party companies that can help you with this. But if you have the resources, you can do it internally. And I've seen it done. And if you don't, then you can pay somebody to do it for you. So let's just take a look at what discovery looks like. When we understand or need to ask the questions about what is important, what do we need to have in our database, what product identification is necessary. We need to talk to our different teams. We need to put our devices into some kind of classification, some kind of categorization, so that we can know the difference between one type of device versus another type of device, so that when we're making risk-based decisions, we can understand this class versus this class. Your building management systems are like this. Your IoT over here, and your connected printers are like this. Or your endpoints, do they all have MDE on it? You put them in different classifications so that when you run reports against how well my risk posture is, you can get a better understanding of what to go tackle, how to go tackle that, and when to go tackle that. And you have to ask the questions to yourself of this information. As I'm gathering this information, as I'm looking at this inventory, is it giving me an all-inclusive view of everything that I need to know so that the multiple teams can pull from the same data? So we talked about earlier, cross-collaboration between the teams. It has to happen. You have to have those conversations with each other. And so when you make those decisions to talk with each other, pull in all the right data. So, like here's an example. You got your routers, your firewalls, your threat intelligence information. Everybody needs to know the IP address of a connected device. That's a given. Everybody needs to know what the MAC address is. Everybody needs to know on and on and on. Here's 4 or 5 right here. Some of the telemetry from the reports that I pull have 128 columns of information that we pull and categorize in different manners. We understand what kind of vendor it is. We understand what kind of OS is on it. We understand who installed it. Is it connected? Is it connected to any of your onboarding processes? So you have a connected device to portal, you log in, and you register your information. That should push into a database. Now I'm connected to the infrastructure. Now I need to be accountable for that. So when that device does something malicious or does something different, I can understand what's on there. So when you pull this database, which should read in real time, as much as real time as you can do, so that you can apply the right policies again, write that down. Collaborate with your team so that you can know what's important. We talked about the prioritization. That helps you prioritize. Bring all this information together into a single place that you can secure, because we don't want everybody accessing it. But only you can know what telemetry and data that you need to pull that's important for your environment. Then when we look at consulting and we look at, what does this look like from this team, from the next team? Are we aligned in our risk matrix? Have we identified the assets correctly? Because it's one thing to have it in the database and you don't have any information in it. Because we have databases that have gaps. I have 64 columns of information and 60 of those columns are blank. That didn't help us any, right? So we have to understand and get in tools that allow us to better manage that asset inventory. When we scan for that device, when we pull the information from the routers and switches, when we log that information, let's apply identity to that as well. Because when you log in from an AP or when you VPN back into your network, I know who you are. I should know who you are. If you're not collecting that information on Connect, then you're not collecting all the right information, right? If that information is not shared in that database that everybody can pull from, then you're not collecting the right information. When your IoT calls out and asks for information or asks something from its aggregator, and you don't calculate that, because let's be real, sometimes Sometimes our IoT systems don't always beacon out. It sits there dormant for a while. You still should have accountability to that. It shouldn't just fall off. But maybe because you categorize it right, it's on a rotation where you can ping it on a monthly basis or on a weekly basis or in some other fashion so that you can have an identity associated to that, and you know it's still live on the network and it's doing what it's supposed to do. And then you can use the AI tools to help you identify what classification, if it's missing, looks like. So if it's a similar device deployed at the similar time, you know, you can throw that into whatever AI tool that you have. Some of us, you know, we can talk about different types of AI tools, you know, a little bit later on that you can use to do that correlation. But you need to prompt AI to give you the right information back and allow you to pull back the right classification for these devices so that when you do go out and look for risk scores against this, you have the right information classified, and you can get the right risk rating, and you can understand what your connected devices are doing. And then that brings you into this. You have your asset, it grows your database. You have your asset information in your database now. So now you're filling some of those gaps. So instead of 60 blank, you have 30 blank. Because you now have your asset ID. You have your vendor information. You have what team it's associated with. And you can start to formulate what kind of security level, what kind of security posture that you want to have against that. The base information from your CVEs and your risk scores that you get from various, you know, threat intelligence, from a network, from an infrastructure, from a connectivity point, you can get some of that. And you can know if that device is compromised before you start letting it do anything else on the environment. You can start making decisions with that because now you have the telemetry. Now you've asked the right questions so that you can bring in and do the right things against your connected devices. Your AI can help improve this, can improve that classification by bringing some of that information in. It can reach out, and y'all been all over the expo floor. There's a ton of people that can show you how their tools have been able to do this. We can talk about it later, but it can pull that CVE information and apply that in real time, and that's what you want to be able to do. You want to be able to ask the right questions. A lot of times we get the best of the breed tools because it has the shiny star on it. But does it do exactly what I need for my environment? Am I asking the right questions? Am I prompting my AI to give me the right information? Because predicting those variations, predicting what your connected devices are doing, tracking some of that creates a lot of data. You can't filter through that by just going through Excel docs or throwing it into some kind of query against it. You need to put some intelligence into it. You need to pull from your known governance documents, your process documents, so that you can have it make good decisions for you in real time and automate some of that registration information. And just think, once you're able to classify it, once you're able to identify this, once you're able to do some of this classification at that level, then you can make registration automatic, right? I can identify the device when it's connected. If I can figure out who connected it, I can register the device as necessary. And so when we pull into the assessment process of this, and we have unaccounted devices, we continue to fill out that database. And we understand what that whole posture looks like. And so our asset management now becomes a system of auto identification. Our threat intelligence centers now have real-time data that they can pull from, classified and categorized in a way that we can make good reports from. And then our onboarding process, we're there. We understand. So now our zero trust strategy can be complete. Our zero trust strategy can now say this classification of devices needs to go over here. These devices with this high risk score, because we pull it, because our environment, our threat intelligence center has said, these are bad. We can now deal with those. And then, when our quantum capabilities start to proliferate across our environment, now we can say, hey, these are quantum ready and these are not. We can start saying these algorithms, these devices are using mechanisms that are quantum agile. And we can start pushing into future device management, which makes things a lot better. And then we get the gold star, because now we have a one database. All our policies are automatically flowing into the systems because we've asked the right questions. And then when we look at compliance, we can start pivoting against things that are important. And we can start helping our device management, especially for our endpoint management. We can understand and make sure that those devices are just as compliant as the devices that don't have some kind of MDE or some kind of endpoint management system on them. And our telemetry looks great all the way across. Then we can make sure all of these items are in our reporting. Wouldn't it be great to say, when you provide your report, I have a risk rating of my unknown devices. I don't know exactly who owns it, but I know what risk score it has because I pull that telemetry down, because I've asked the right questions, because I've been able to pull the right data, because I'm sharing the same databases with everyone else. And that way one team is not more knowledgeable or has some kind of different information than another team, and you're secure across all your verticals. And so when we look at our inventory systems, our threat intelligence systems, our security controls, we say, okay, our databases are set. Now we just continue to add on to what this looks like. We continue to add on to what makes this threat intelligence that we need to collect more informational. So now we can look at our data and make good risk decisions, because anything connected in our environment, any applications that are connected in an environment should all be risk-based decisions as it's connected, as it's interconnecting with each other. And if you're not making that, then you're kind of setting yourself back a little bit. But putting all that information together allows you to create dashboards that give you great information. You now have the telemetry, and you can just quickly look at it and say, I can show this in a report. I can show how many devices are potentially compromised. I can look at this report and say which areas I have risk the most. I can say, this area is being attacked, this area is being attacked. We have all of those threat maps, but do we all have it with our real-time data? Because we're all sharing the same information. And so those are some of the things that we need to look for. So just some of the things to consider against what you want to measure. Compliant versus non-compliant. Do we have it written down? Do we have an understanding of the devices that are in our environment that are non-compliant? I would suffice it to say that if I asked everybody to tell me how many devices in your ecosystem are non-compliant, I probably would get a different answer from each one of you about the same information as a percentage. But now, once we pull these things together, as we're asking these right questions, we can understand how to better make that happen. Access requests. So now we can make decisions on what connects to what. Now we can say, hey, you're logging in, your identity says you have access to this information. Now I can give you access because I know about you. I can give you access to what you need to have access to, and not just give you access to everything just because you're on a connected flat network. Your hardware enforcement, just because it doesn't have an agent running on it, you can still do hardware enforcement. You can still understand if this device is risky, and you can understand when was the last time it was updated, or what it's running, is that of a compromise? And that's what we want to know. And then our MITRE frameworks become more important and more valuable to you. And then what we can see over time is we can track what that looks like over time. We can track how well our environment's doing. Is our processes working? That's what we want to know. We just spent a ton of money upgrading this and upgrading that. We just spent a ton of money buying new equipment, buying new gear. Is it working the way we need to work it? So we can use these types of dashboards to understand, are we pivoting? Is our compliance, is it all managed correctly? Is it all managed according to how we need to get information? Is it managed in a way that allows us to make good risk-based decisions? Because it's asking the right questions, it's implementing it in the right manner, and it's making sure that you can provide the telemetry back to understand what to do next. It's like, I've done this. What do I do next? I'm tracking progress on this. Once that's complete, what do I do next? We can't say, okay, I've done it, I'm done, I'm complete, because that's what gets us in trouble. That's what the hackers look for. That's what, people are already in our environment. We need to track that. We need to understand that. We need to mitigate their ability to be able to maneuver and pivot, because you're not managing your assets well. So track that progress. And it's just like this graph. It goes up and down. Be able to understand that. And then understand, what's left? What do we need to pivot into? What systems do we need to make better next? And so when we look at our expected outcomes, things that we can take back, we understand that coordination between our partner teams, and understanding partner teams is not just our internal teams, it's with your vendors that you're working with. It's with your Cisco's, it's with your Palo Altos, it's with all of those infrastructure teams that you're pulling networking information from. Those are your partners. Those are the ones that you engage with. Those are the teams that need to be in some of those discussions so that you deploy correctly. And then that telemetry can be automated in a fashion that allows you to produce the right information. Are your programs, capabilities where they need to be? Just because you started 2 years ago, have you reflected on what's working positive with that versus, what's not? Are you able to set a goal to be able to complete that and it be all-encompassing, or at least get you to a good starting point so that you can continue on? And then your assessment teams and your assessment accounts. Do you have teams in place that do risk assessment on connected devices? Connectivity from A to B, connectivity from one vertical to another vertical, connectivity between your zero trust strategy. Your zero trust strategy is to have you going through a gate mechanism when it's connecting from one environment to the next environment. How is that working out for you? How is that process? Modify that process, because we get more and more devices, more and more connected devices. So your strategy needs to be updated more and more. So expect that and understand that. And then make sure that they're all risk-based. Make sure that your decisions that you come up with have some good accountability, so that when you're maximizing your capabilities across your ecosystem, you're able to allocate resources to the right places at the right time so that you can have remediation in real time because you've used your AI systems. Your connected devices have been put into an auto identification structure because you've developed that with your cross collaboration. And now you can start planning today and do these things as necessary. You can take some of these tips and take it back and start talking with your teams, asking the right questions, and implementing the right processes. And not just talking about it, documenting it, writing it down, making sure it's part of your governance strategy, and making sure that when you look at what's been presented to you, if you task it out to somebody, what has been presented to you, you need. And then you can create a system of continuous improvement, which helps you all throughout. So that's what we have for today. Are there any questions that we might have? All right. So let's take this information back. Let's have a great rest of the conference with RSA. And I appreciate everyone being here and welcome me in.